Loki Achit, the Great Pyramid of Giza. A perfect mathematical marvel, the last surviving wonder of the ancient world. A testament to the ingenuity and power of a civilization that touched eternity. It's a breathtaking sight. Now, stop looking at the pyramid and look down at the sand, at the mud, at the sweat. Dust-caked worker who is dragging a 2-ton block of limestone under a blistering sun. That's you. And spoiler alert, you're not a slave being whipped by a cruel overseer. The reality is something far more mundane and therefore far more tragically ironic. You're a conscripted laborer, a farmer paying your taxes not with grain, but with your own back-breaking, life-threatening toil. Welcome to What If You Were, the channel that dismantles the grand monuments of history to reveal the miserable human realities that made them possible. Today, you're not a hero, you're not a slave in a Hollywood epic, you're a temporary government employee on the worst construction project of all time. Let's set our scene in the Old Kingdom. Around 2560 BC, the pharaoh Khufu is on the throne, and he's got a deadline for his eternal resting place. You are a farmer living in a small village on the banks of the Nile. For most of the year, your life is dictated by the rhythm of the seasons, planting and harvesting. But then comes Akhet, the season of inundation. The Nile overflows its banks, flooding your fields and making farming impossible for about 3 months. For you, this doesn't mean a vacation. It means you're available. This is when the pharaoh's scribes, the ancient equivalent of IRS agents, arrive in your village with their papyrus scrolls and their lists. Your name is on one of those lists. You have been drafted. This isn't a choice. It's your civic duty. You're back. It's how you, a humble farmer, contribute to the cosmic order, or MAT, by ensuring your Gaching has a suitable launch pad to the afterlife. Refusing is not an option. It would be seen as treason against the gods and the state. So you say goodbye to your family, knowing you might not see them again for months, if ever. You join a long column of thousands of other men from all corners of Egypt, marching towards the Giza Plateau. The scale of the operation is staggering, a logistical feat that would challenge modern engineers, let alone a Bronze Age bureaucracy. Your new home is a purpose-built city near the pyramids, a place archaeologists call Hayt el-Garab, the Wall of the Crow. This isn't a slave camp of miserable tents. It's a highly organized, sprawling settlement of long galleries, mud brick houses, bakeries, breweries, and medical facilities. You are housed in long barracks with your fellow workers, sleeping on raised platforms. It's cramped, noisy, and privacy is a concept that doesn't exist. This city can house over 20,000 people, a temporary metropolis dedicated to a single, colossal task. The organization is impressive. But don't be fooled. This isn't a worker's paradise. It's a meticulously planned labor camp. Your life is no longer your own. It is scheduled and controlled down to the last loaf of bread and jar of beer. Part 2. The Science of Sweat and Stone. Your workday begins before the sun rises. You're awoken by a foreman, and your breakfast is your payment. Several loaves, of course, mass-produced bread, and a couple of jars of beer. The beer is thick and nutritious, more of a porridge than a beverage, and it serves as your primary source of calories for the day. This isn't a perk, it's fuel. You are a human machine, and the state provides just enough fuel to keep you running. After your meal, you are organized into your work gang. These gangs were surprisingly well structured, with crews of about 20 men, larger divisions of 200, and massive files of 2,000, often with competitive and boastful names like the Drunkards of Menkaure or the Friends of Khufu. Your specific job depends on your skills, but for most, it begins in the quarries. The bulk of the pyramid is made of limestone cut from the Giza Plateau itself. Here, you and your crew work under the relentless Egyptian sun, the white stone reflecting a blinding glare. Your tools are primitive but effective. You use hard, rounded dolerite pounders to smash away at the rock. You use copper chisels and saws, which blunt quickly and need constant sharpening to cut channels into the limestone. Wooden wedges are hammered into cracks and then soaked with water. As the wood expands, it splits the rock, breaking off a massive, multi-ton block. The air is thick with limestone dust that coats your skin, fills your lungs, and makes every breath a chore. The noise is a deafening chorus of hammering, chipping, and shouting. Once a block is freed, the real challenge begins, moving it. This is where the myth of whips and chains truly crumbles, replaced by the reality of physics and immense coordinated effort. The massive blocks are levered onto large wooden sledges. Teams of dozens, sometimes hundreds, of men are harnessed to the sledge with thick ropes made of papyrus. A path is cleared, and other workers pour water on the sand in front of the sledge to reduce friction. Then, to the rhythmic chant of a foreman, you pull. Every muscle in your body screams in protest. You are in a human tug-of-war with a mountain. A single misstep, a snapped rope, a moment of lost coordination could mean disaster. A slipping block could crush a dozen men in an instant. This is a slow, agonizing, and incredibly dangerous procession. The more prestigious outer casing stones and the massive granite blocks for the inner chambers are quarried hundreds of miles away in places, like Tura and Aswan. These are loaded onto massive barges during the inundation season and floated down the Nile to Giza. Getting them off the barges into the base of the pyramid is another logistical nightmare you have to solve with nothing but muscle, rope, and ingenuity. This life of statement-dated, back-breaking labor has its own horrors. The sheer physical toll is immense, but at least your society wasn't actively trying to break your spirit from birth for military purposes. The Spartans, who we discussed in our last video, took the concept of a brutal education to a whole new, terrifying level of psychological and physical abuse. What you're enduring is for construction, their suffering was for destruction. Let's say a Teuton limestone block slips its ropes on the main ramp, beginning to slide back towards the crew below, which includes your brother from your home village. Your foreman is screaming at everyone to hold their positions, to dig in their heels, to prevent a catastrophic chain reaction that could wipe out the entire team. Do you obey the foreman and hold your place, sacrificing your brother to save the group and the project? Or do you break formation and make a desperate, probably futile, attempt to save him, knowing that the punishment for disobeying an order, if you even survive, will be severe? Let me know what you would choose in the comments. Part 3. An eternal tomb built by temporary men. For all the hardship, there were some surprising benefits to this job. The first, as mentioned, was the pay. You received no money, but your rations of bread, beer, onions, garlic, and dried fish were consistent and plentiful. For a poor farmer, this steady supply of food might have been a better diet than you had at home. You were, after all, a valuable state asset, and a starving worker is an inefficient worker. The second surprising perk was healthcare. Archaeologists at the workers' village have found evidence of a sophisticated medical system. Skeletons show bones that were broken and then set properly, amputations that were performed cleanly, and even evidence of what might be brain surgery. If you were injured on the job, you were not left to die. The state would invest in patching you up and getting you back to work. You were too valuable to be disposable, like a good shovel or a strong ox. Day after day, week after week, you toil. You see the pyramid grow, a slow, methodical crawl towards the heavens. You are part of something immense, something eternal, but you are also profoundly insignificant. You will never see the inside of the king's chamber you're building. You will never read the hieroglyphs the skilled artisans are carving. Your contribution is your sweat, your muscle, and the constant risk of your life. And yet, there was a form of honor in it. The best workers, the ones who served for many seasons or died on the job, were sometimes granted the privilege of being buried in their own small tombs in a cemetery near the Great Pyramid. It was the ultimate reward to spend your afterlife in the shadow of the monument you helped create, a testament to your service to the god. Finally, the waters of the Nile recede. The season of Shimwe, the harvest, is beginning. Your term of service is over. You are dismissed, and you begin the long walk back to your village. You are exhausted. Your body is covered in scrapes and scars. Your lungs are full of dust. But you are alive. You return to your family and your fields, a farmer once again. You will plant, you will harvest, and you will wait for the next flood, for the next time the scribes come with their lists, and for your next tour of duty on the Giza Plateau. You will do this year after year, for perhaps 20 years, until the great mountain of stone is finally complete. So, what if you were a pyramid builder in ancient Egypt? You wouldn't be a slave living under the constant threat of the whip. You would be a citizen, paying your taxes in the most physically demanding way imaginable. Your life would be a seasonal cycle of farming and gargantuan construction. a world of mud brick barracks and monumental stone ramps. You would be well-fed, medically cared for, and part of a highly organized, almost modern labor force. But you would also be a man with no choice, whose body belonged to the state, working under brutally dangerous conditions to build an eternal home for a ruler you would never meet. The pyramids are not a monument to alien technology or slave labor. They are a monument to the absolute, terrifying power of a centralized state to mobilize its entire population towards a single, inhumanly ambitious goal. Did you enjoy this trip into the impossible? Check out our other videos here, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next What If You Were.